Good morning, children. Today we are going to start with our poem that is The Shed, written by Frank Flynn. Children, what do you mean by shed? Shed is any hut or a small cottage like in which we can keep our things like the waste materials or those things which are not in our use. The same shed can also be used to keep in the pet animals as well as other creatures. Students, do you know what is a shed? A cow shed, a tool shed, a wood shed, for example. It's a small room away from the main house for storing or keeping things, animals, tools, vehicles, etc. You can even ask your partner if she or he has ever seen a shed. Now let us start reading the poem. Before we read the poem, we should know that what does this poem talks about. Children, in this poem there are two brothers, the younger brother who is the poet himself, Frank Flynn, and his elder brother. Now his elder brother tries to relish all the desires of his younger brother who had to go into the shed. His younger brother had these desires to go into the shed and to look and solve the mysteries of the shed, but his younger brother plays tactics but his older brother plays tactics on him to relish his desires to go into the same shed. Now, afterwards, when the poet grows, he realizes that his elder brother might be trying to keep the shed for his own privacy, and because of that reason, he was trying to resist the poet from going in the shed. Now, let us read the poem stanza by stanza and try to understand the meaning of each line. There's a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. When I am in bed, I lie and listen. I'll open that door one day. Children, here the poet Frank Flynn in the above lines introduces to a shed in his garden. He says on the door of the shed there is a spider's web which is hanging across. As we enter the shed, there is a door and there is the spider's web. After that, he also talks about the hinges, which are the edges of the doors and windows, which are iron edges. Now, these iron edges by time have become rusty. Rust have appeared on these hinges, and also there are some creaks, and there are some openings or the crevices in these windows, in these iron hinges, through which the wind blows in. And when the poet is in bed, he lies there and he listens to the wind which is creaking in the shed. There's a dusty old window around at the side with three cracked panes of glass. I often think there's someone staring at me. Each time that I pass, I'll peep through that window one day. Children, poet in these lines is trying to say that there is a dusty old window with three panes of the glasses broken. Means the window was having four panes of glasses. Out of them, the three were already broken. Along with that, whenever the poet passes besides the shed, he always notices and he always observes this that someone is trying to peep in from the shed and staring at the poet. The poet then decides that one day definitely he'll peep in again through the window. My brother says there's a ghost in the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards, and if I even dare to set foot aside, he'll jump out and chop off my head. But I'll take a peek one day. So, children, here we come to know about poet's elder brother. Now, his brother is saying to the poet that there is a ghost who lives and resides in the shed. He is hiding under the rotten floorboards. Now, these floorboards are the boards from which the floor is being laid. And if the poet by mistake tries to enter the shed, the ghost will come out of these floorboards by jumping out of these floorboards and will chop off the head of the author. And this is all to scare the author. But then also, the poet says that I'll take a peek one day. I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. There isn't anyone stirring or making strange noises, and the spider has gone from his web, since I don't know when, but not just yet. So, here, students, in these lines, the poet is saying that he realizes and he understands that actually there is no ghost or no supernatural power which is residing inside the shed. It is all his elder brother tactics who is trying to relish all the desires of the poet to go inside the shed, because it might be possible that he wants to keep the shed for his own privacy. That's why in the poem also it has been mentioned that his elder brother wants to keep the shed for his den. Den means his castle where he wants to live alone, and he wants to have some privacy in that shed. And also now, as the time has passed by, the spider which was living and which was making its web across the door has gone away. But the poet doesn't know that when he will go to the shed, because he again desires to go to the shed, but still he has not decided that when will he go to the shed.